December 15th, 2023, Las Vegas, Nevada. Marcus Rodriguez watched Tyler Cain's fist connect with the heavy bag and saw a dead man's face staring back at him. The kid had his father's left hook, the same devastating power that should have won the championship 12 years ago, before Marcus made sure it didn't. Now Cain was calling out Steven Seagal on live television. The crowd laughed, but Marcus wasn't laughing. He knew what Cain really wanted. Revenge has a way of finding you, even when you've buried the evidence deep enough to fool everyone else. The kid didn't know Marcus was watching, didn't know the man who killed his father was standing 10 feet away. But Seagal knew. Seagal had always known. And tomorrow, Marcus would have to choose between the secret that kept him alive and the boy whose life he destroyed. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Marcus stepped back into the shadows of the gym's equipment alcove, his heart hammering against his ribs like it hadn't since his last title fight. The kid, Tyler Cain, was alone now, the ESPN cameras packed up, the reporters gone. Just him and the heavy bag, throwing combinations that echoed through the empty Venice Beach gym like gunshots. Each punch landed with surgical precision. Jab, cross hook. The same sequence Danny Cain had drilled 1,000 times before that night in Atlantic City, before Marcus had whispered the wrong advice in his ear between rounds, before Danny walked into a right hand that dropped him like a stone and never got back up. The bag swayed hypnotically under Tyler's assault, and Marcus found himself transported back 12 years. Different gym, same sound. Danny Cain working the mitts with his trainer, preparing for the biggest fight of his life. The fight that was supposed to make him champion. The fight that was supposed to change everything for his 3-year-old son. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He looks just like his father, doesn't he? Ice flooded Marcus's veins. Only one person could have sent that message. Only one person knew Marcus was here, knew what he was seeing. Steven Seagal had made it clear 12 years ago that their business wasn't finished, that someday the favor would be called in. That day had apparently arrived. Tyler finished his combination and stepped back, chest heaving. For a moment, his guard dropped, and Marcus saw it, the grief that lived behind those dark eyes. The same eyes that had haunted Marcus's dreams for over a decade. The kid wiped sweat from his forehead with the same gesture his father used to make, and Marcus had to grip the equipment rack to keep from stumbling backward. The gym's front door chimed as someone entered. Marcus didn't need to look to know who it was. That distinctive shuffle, the creak of leather boots that cost more than most people's rent. Steven Seagal moved through the world like he owned it, and in many ways, he did. Tyler Cain, Seagal's voice carried across the gym, smooth as aged whiskey and twice as dangerous. The machine told me I'd find you here. Tyler turned, confusion flickering across his features. The machine? Seagal gestured toward the shadows where Marcus stood frozen. Marcus Rodriguez, former heavyweight champion, current ghost. He's been watching you for the past hour, haven't you, Marcus? Marcus stepped into the light, feeling like a condemned man walking to the electric chair. Tyler's eyes went wide with recognition, then narrowed with something that might have been suspicion. Or maybe it was instinct, blood calling to blood across the years. Holy shit, Tyler breathed. Marcus the Machine Rodriguez. I grew up watching your fights, including the one where I killed your father, Marcus thought, but managed a tight nod instead. You've got good form, kid. Reminds me of someone. The lie tasted like copper in his mouth. Tyler studied him with an intensity that made Marcus want to confess everything right there on the spot. But Seagal stepped between them, his presence filling the space like smoke from a house fire. I've been thinking about your challenge, Seagal said to Tyler. The one you made on television. Very bold, very public. Tyler's jaw tightened. You accepting? Perhaps. But if I do this, it won't be some publicity stunt. It'll be real. Blood real. Are you prepared for that level of commitment? Something passed between them then, a current of understanding that Marcus couldn't quite read. Tyler nodded slowly, and Marcus realized the kid knew exactly what he was signing up for. This wasn't about fame or social media clout. This was about something deeper, darker. Good, Seagal continued. Then we'll need proper preparation. Serious training. And for that, I'll need someone who understands both sides of this equation. His pale eyes found Marcus, someone who knows what it means to cross certain lines. Marcus felt the walls closing in. Seagal was orchestrating this, had been from the moment Tyler made his challenge. The question was why? What did the action star gain from putting these particular pieces in motion? I don't train anymore, Marcus said, his voice hoarse. I'm retired. Retirement is a luxury, Seagal replied, and luxuries can be revoked. Tyler looked between them, sensing undercurrents he couldn't name. Wait, you two know each other? We have history, Seagal said before Marcus could respond. Don't we, Marcus? Ancient history. The kind that shapes a man's future whether he wants it to or not. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Another message: train him, or I tell him about Atlantic City. The blood drained from Marcus's face. Across the gym, Tyler was studying him with those familiar dark eyes, waiting for an answer, waiting for a choice that would either bury the past deeper or resurrect it completely. Marcus looked at the kid, Danny Kane's son, grown tall and strong and hungry for something he didn't even understand yet, and felt the last 12 years of careful distance crumble to dust. When do we start? The words hung in the air like a death sentence Marcus had just pronounced on himself. Tyler's face lit up with something that might have been respect or gratitude, but all Marcus could see was Danny Kane's smile from that last sparring session in Atlantic City. Confident, trusting, completely unaware that his cornerman had already sold him out. Tomorrow morning, Seagal said, checking his watch with theatrical precision. 5 a.m. sharp. This isn't going to be a typical Hollywood training montage, gentlemen. We have 3 weeks to prepare for something that should take 3 years. Tyler nodded eagerly, but Marcus barely heard them making arrangements. His mind was spinning backward through 12 years of careful isolation, through the small routines and quiet rituals he'd built to keep the past buried. The morning runs along the Venice boardwalk when the homeless camps were still sleeping and the tourists hadn't yet invaded. The late-night sessions fixing equipment in the gym, finding peace in the simple mechanics of tightening bolts and replacing worn leather. The Thursday dinners with Elena Vasquez, the 73-year-old widow who owned the taco truck outside the gym and who had somehow adopted him as the son she'd lost to gang violence decades ago. Elena. Christ, what would he tell Elena? She was the only person who knew about his nightmares. The only one who'd seen him wake up screaming Danny's name in the fold-out cot he kept in the gym's back office. She'd never asked questions, just showed up those first terrible months with containers of Pozole and the kind of silence that didn't demand explanations. When the gym's previous owner died and left the place to creditors, Elena had somehow scrounged together the down payment to keep it from being sold to developers. She'd handed him the keys like she was passing along a family heirloom. This place needs someone who understands pain, she'd said. Someone who knows how to transform it into something useful. For 12 years, he'd tried to be worthy of that trust. He'd trained young fighters for free, giving them structure and discipline instead of allowing the streets to claim them. He'd turned the gym into a sanctuary where ex-cons and recovering addicts could sweat out their demons without judgment. He'd built something clean from the wreckage of his conscience, and now Seagal was going to burn it all down. Tyler was already heading toward the exit, his movements sharp with anticipation. At the door, he turned back. Hey, Marcus, I know you probably don't remember, but you signed an autograph for me once. I was maybe 7 or 8. My mom brought me to one of your fights in Vegas. The memory hit Marcus like a physical blow. He did remember. A thin kid with enormous dark eyes clutching a program, standing next to a woman with grief etched into every line of her face. Sarah Kane, Danny's widow. She'd waited until the crowds cleared, then approached him with quiet dignity. Tyler wanted to meet you, she'd said simply. His father always talked about how much he respected you, even after... She hadn't finished the sentence, hadn't needed to. Even after you got him killed, her silence had completed. Marcus had signed the program with shaking hands, unable to meet the kid's trusting gaze. Sarah had nodded once, a gesture that somehow contained both forgiveness and warning, then led Tyler away. Marcus had never seen them again until tonight. I remember, Marcus said now, his voice barely audible. You had a Warriors jersey. Too big for you. Tyler's smile was radiant, completely unguarded. "Yeah, my dad's favorite team. Man, I can't believe you remember that." He paused at the threshold. "This is going to be incredible. Training with a legend like you, my dad would have freaked out." The kid disappeared into the Venice night, leaving Marcus alone with Seagal and the weight of secrets that felt heavier by the second. The action star studied him with those pale, calculating eyes, reading every flicker of emotion that crossed Marcus's face. "You're wondering why," Seagal said finally. "Why now? Why him? Why drag you back into this particular circle of hell?" Marcus leaned against the heavy bag Tyler had been working, feeling the canvas still warm from impact. "You've had 12 years to collect on whatever debt you think I owe you. Why wait until now?" "Because now it matters." Seagal moved closer, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "That boy isn't just looking for a fight, Marcus. He's looking for answers. About his father, about what really happened in Atlantic City, about why the greatest heavyweight of his generation suddenly lost the ability to take a punch." The gym's fluorescent lights flickered, casting shifting shadows across the walls lined with photographs of champions. Marcus found Danny Kane's picture in the memorial section, young, powerful, immortal in black and white. Below it, a small plaque, in memory of those who gave everything to the sport. "Train him well," Seagal said, heading for the door. "Because one way or another he's going to learn the truth. The question is whether you want to control how that story gets told." The door chimed shut, leaving Marcus alone with the ghosts. Marcus stood in the empty gym, Seagal's words echoing in the sudden silence. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in harsh relief: the memorial wall, the worn equipment, the shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. He walked to the back office, needing the familiar comfort of his small sanctuary, but stopped cold when he saw it. An envelope on his desk, manila, unmarked, with the kind of weight that suggested photographs inside. His hands trembled as he picked it up. No one had access to this office except Elena, and she was visiting her sister in Tijuana this week. The gym had been locked when he'd arrived earlier, the security system armed. Yet somehow this envelope had found its way onto his desk like a ghost materializing from his past. Inside were 3 photographs and a letter written on expensive stationery. The first photo made his knees buckle. Marcus himself, 12 years younger, standing in a hotel corridor in Atlantic City, shaking hands with Vincent "Vinny" Torino, the shark-eyed bookmaker who'd owned half the boxing commissions on the East Coast. Money changing hands, a transaction captured in perfect clarity. The second photo was worse. Marcus leaning over the ropes during round 7 of Danny's last fight, whispering into his fighter's ear. The camera had caught the exact moment Marcus had given Danny the fatal advice that would lower his guard at precisely the wrong second. Even in the grainy image, Danny's trusting expression was heartbreaking. The third photo destroyed him completely. Sarah Kane in a hospital corridor, cradling 3-year-old Tyler while doctors delivered the news that his father would never wake up. The kid's face was buried against his mother's shoulder, small body racked with sobs he was too young to understand. Marcus's vision blurred. He gripped the edge of the desk, fighting the urge to vomit. After 12 years of nightmares, seeing it documented in black and white felt like reliving the moment all over again. The letter was worse than the photos. "Marcus, by now you've realized that your secrets aren't as buried as you hoped. I've carried these photographs for 12 years, waiting for the right moment. That moment is now." Tyler Kane's challenge to Seagal isn't random. The boy has been asking questions, digging. He knows his father's death wasn't just bad luck or poor timing. He knows someone betrayed Danny Kane that night, and he's getting close to the truth. "You have 2 choices. Train Seagal and help us control this narrative, or watch everything collapse when Tyler discovers that his childhood hero murdered his father for 30 pieces of silver. The training starts tomorrow. Don't disappoint us again. A friend." The letter wasn't signed, but Marcus didn't need a signature. Only 3 people knew the full truth about Atlantic City: Marcus himself, Seagal, and Vincent Torino. Since Vinny had been feeding fish in the Hudson River for 5 years, that left Seagal as the author of this particular piece of blackmail. But something didn't add up. If Seagal just wanted Marcus's cooperation, the verbal threat would have been enough. The photographs were overkill. Unless someone else was pulling Seagal's strings. Marcus's phone rang, the sound sharp as a gunshot in the empty gym. Elena's name appeared on the screen, and for a moment he considered not answering. But Elena's calls were never casual, and her timing had always been supernatural. Mijo. Her voice was tight with worry. I'm in Tijuana, but I had to call. I've been having dreams. Bad dreams about you and that boy. What boy? Marcus's throat felt like sandpaper. Danny Kane's son. He's in danger, Marcus. And so are you. There are people who've been waiting a long time for this moment. They're using you both. The phone slipped from Marcus's numb fingers, clattering to the floor. Elena's voice continued, tinny and distant. Don't trust anyone, mijo, not even the ones who claim to be helping. The past isn't finished with you yet. Marcus stared at the photographs scattered across his desk. Tyler's innocent smile from earlier tonight now seemed like an accusation. The kid was walking into a trap, and Marcus was the bait. Worse, Marcus was probably the target. He thought about running. He had maybe $600 in cash, a 20-year-old Honda, and 12 years of practice at disappearing. He could be in Mexico by dawn, lost in a place where American secrets couldn't follow. But then he looked at Danny Kane's memorial photo on the wall. Those same dark eyes that Tyler had inherited, full of trust and hope and the belief that the world was fundamentally fair. Marcus had betrayed that trust once. He wouldn't do it again. The gym's front door chimed. Marcus quickly gathered the photographs, shoving them back into the envelope. Footsteps approached across the training floor, heavy, purposeful, unfamiliar. When the stranger appeared in his doorway, Marcus knew with absolute certainty that his old life was officially dead. The man was built like a concrete block, with scars that suggested military training and eyes that had seen too much violence. Mr. Rodriguez, the stranger said, his voice carrying a slight accent Marcus couldn't place. We need to talk. Marcus stared at the stranger, his body frozen in the chair while his mind scrambled for options. The envelope of photographs lay half hidden beneath today's newspaper, but the stranger's eyes had already cataloged every detail of the small office. Professional eyes, predator's eyes. I think you've got the wrong guy, Marcus said, surprised by how steady his voice sounded. Gym's closed. The stranger smiled without warmth and stepped inside uninvited, closing the door behind him with deliberate care. The click of the latch sounded like a tomb sealing shut. My name is Dmitry Kozlov. I represent certain interested parties who have been following your recent activities with great concern. He pulled out his phone, swiped through several screens, then turned it toward Marcus. Perhaps you recognize this? The screen showed security footage from tonight. Marcus watching Tyler train, Seagal's arrival, their conversation near the heavy bag. The timestamp indicated multiple cameras, multiple angles. They'd been under surveillance the entire time. Impressive young fighter, Kozlov continued, pocketing the phone. Tyler Kane, 26 years old, undefeated professional record, degree in investigative journalism from USC. Did you know about the journalism degree, Mr. Rodriguez? The words hit Marcus like ice water. What? Oh, yes. Very curious young man. Spent his college years learning how to dig up buried stories. His senior thesis was particularly interesting. Corruption in professional boxing, a case study. Focused on fixed fights in Atlantic City between 2010 and 2012. Kozlov's smile widened. I wonder what inspired such specific research parameters. Marcus gripped the arms of his chair to keep from lunging at the man. Tyler hadn't just stumbled into this situation. He'd been hunting for it, for him. The kid's challenge to Seagal, the convenient location at this particular gym, the earnest questions about training techniques, all of it choreographed. He doesn't know, Marcus said, though he was no longer certain. He's just a kid looking for a fight. Perhaps. Or perhaps he's been very patient, very clever. Kozlov moved to the memorial wall, studying the photographs with apparent interest. Tell me, when you signed that autograph for him all those years ago, did you notice anything unusual about his questions? The way he watched you? Children are remarkably observant when someone they trust has been hurt. The memory shifted in Marcus's mind, details he'd suppressed now surfacing with horrible clarity. Tyler hadn't just wanted an autograph. He'd asked questions, specific questions about training, about corner work, about the kinds of advice trainers gave their fighters during crucial moments. And Sarah Kane had watched the conversation with an expression Marcus had mistaken for grief but might have been something else entirely, something like satisfaction. "What do you want?" Marcus asked. "The same thing Mr. Seagal wants. Control. This situation has too many variables, too many people with conflicting agendas. Young Mr. Kane's investigation threatens certain business relationships that have proven profitable over the years. We need him redirected. And if I refuse?" Kozlov turned from the memorial wall, his expression hardening. "Then you'll discover that some secrets are too dangerous to carry alone. Atlantic City was not an isolated incident, Mr. Rodriguez. Vincent Torino's organization had interests in dozens of fights, hundreds of fighters. Many of those fighters are still alive, still competing, still unaware of how thoroughly their careers were managed." The implication landed like a physical blow. Marcus had believed his betrayal of Danny Kane was a single moment of weakness, one terrible choice in an otherwise clean career. But if Kozlov was telling the truth, if the corruption had been systematic— "How many?" Marcus whispered. "Does it matter? What matters is that certain people have invested considerable time and money in maintaining the current narrative. Mr. Kane's investigation jeopardizes those investments. Mr. Seagal's cooperation in this training arrangement provides an opportunity to redirect the young man's attention. A public fight, win or lose, gives him a different story to tell, a cleaner story." Marcus thought about Tyler's intensity at the heavy bag, the precision of his combinations, the cold focus in his eyes. Not the desperation of someone seeking fame, but the methodical preparation of someone planning to hurt someone, really hurt them. And if the training doesn't redirect him? Kozlov shrugged. Then accidents happen. Training accidents, sparring accidents, the kind that end careers or lives. We would prefer cooperation, Mr. Rodriguez, but we are prepared for other solutions. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Marcus stared at the envelope beneath the newspaper, weighing options that all led to betrayal. Betray Tyler by helping redirect his investigation. Betray Seagal by refusing to cooperate. Betray himself by running. "I need time to think." Of course, but not too much time. The training begins tomorrow, and young Mr. Kane is expecting his childhood hero to help him prepare for the fight of his life. Don't disappoint him again. Kozlov moved toward the door, then paused. "One last thing. Elena Vasquez makes excellent pozole. It would be unfortunate if her truck encountered any health code violations. Venice Beach can be dangerous for small business owners." The door closed behind him, leaving Marcus alone with the certainty that every choice ahead led deeper into darkness.